In this tutorial I will show you how to build this game. It's an arcade shooter like Space Pirate Trainer. First of all, set up a project. If you don't know how, click the link in the top right corner. Create a plane. Remove the main camera from the hierarchy. I have already removed it. Bring the OVR camera rig to the hierarchy. Center the plane. Place the camera rig in the middle. Inside the camera rig, set the tracking origin type to floor level. Go to the asset store. Download and import a gun. I have already downloaded it, so I only have the import button. I have chose Sci-Fi Pistol 1 from the asset store. You can use any gun you like. Back to the scene. Assets folder. Select the gun prefab and drag it into your scene. Make it smaller. You can fine-tune the size later. Put it in your right hand by dragging it to the right controller anchor. Zero all the position values on the gun to make it in the same position as its parent. The parent is now the right controller anchor, aka the right controller. I want the gun to be black. Create a black material in the assets folder. Drag it to the gun. Now test. Scale it down to the size you want. Test and rescale until you are happy. I'm happy with this size. Now let's create a shield. Create a cube and make it roughly the size you want your shield to be. Create a material in your assets folder. Select the material. In your inspector window, select transparent. Give it the color you like. I'm choosing blue like Space Pirate Trainer. Drag the material to your shield. Then select the color picker. Drag this bar until the shield gets as transparent as you want it. Place the shield in the same hand as the gun. Center its position. Name it shield. Name the gun. Let's put a handle on the shield. As a child to the shield, create a cube. Reshape and rotate to make it like a handle. I will not put too much time into making it look nice. You can if you like. Select the shield. Uncheck the checkbox in the top left corner. This will deactivate the shield. Select the right controller anchor. Add component. Name it switch gun and shield. Double-click to open. Copy this script. A fully commented version will be available in the source code on patreon.com. If you want to support me in making these tutorials, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Link in the description. Save the script to make it update in Unity. Now select the right controller box. Drag the center eye camera to the head slot. Test and see that it's working so far. Nice. Now let's make the gun shoot. Create an empty game object as child to the gun and name it barrel location. Drag the barrel location to where you want your lasers to exit. The lasers will be fired in whatever direction the blue arrow is pointing. Select the gun. Add component. Name it gun. Add and create. Open the script. Copy this code. Code is available in source code. Remember to save script. Then back in Unity. Create a sound folder in your assets folder. Find a fitting laser sound online. I have already found one. Save it somewhere on your computer, then import it through Unity into your sounds folder. My sounds are also available in source. Select the gun. Drag the sound the laser sound slot and to the haptic audio clip slot. The haptic audio clip represents the vibration of the controller. I have a short video explaining how this works in my channel. Create an audio source component on the gun and drag it into the source slot. Drag the spatial blend all the way to 3D. Drag the barrel location to the barrel location slot. Set the chute power to 4000. Now let's create a laser that the gun will fire. In your hierarchy, create a new capsule. Resize it to your desired laser size. Create a new material. Make it yellow. Drag it to the laser. While having the laser selected, component, effects, halo. Drag it a little higher so it's easier to see the effect. Set the color to yellow. Adjust the size to give it a little glow. Rename the capsule. Drag the laser to the Assets folder to create a prefab. Then delete it from the hierarchy. Select the gun and drag the laser to the laser slot. Oops! I forgot to add a rigid body to the laser. Select the laser. Add component. Rigid body. Uncheck use gravity. Now test and see if it works. The sound will not be coming through in my recording, but it works great. I will adjust my barrel location as my lasers get instantiated a little bit too early. Adjust the chute power. It is too fast now. Set it to 2000. Give it a quick test. Now, let's arm the left hand as well. Copy the shield and gun to the left controller anchor. Ctrl+D to copy. Make sure they are in the same order as in the right hand. Add the switching script to the left controller anchor. We need to make a small adjustment in the gun script to separate the two guns. Now both will shoot on the trigger on the right controller. Open the gun script. Add these lines of code. Change to the new controller variable in the getDown method. Remember to select the right controller on the right gun and left on the left gun. Now test. The sound is only in my headset and not in the recording. Everything works great. Now let's start bringing in some enemies. Go to the asset store. I have selected some spaceships that I will use as enemies. They are called free spaceships. Download and import. Select one of the spaceship prefabs. Drag it into your scene. Scale it down. As you can see, the blue arrow of the spaceship is pointing down. That means that the spaceship's forward direction is down. This is wrong, as the spaceship will be pointing the bottom part of itself towards us when we tell it to face us. The fix for this is to make the spaceship a child of an empty game object that is facing the correct way. Let's do that right now. Select the enemy object with the spaceship and add a script called enemy1. Open the script and add these lines of code. Create an empty game object and call it locations. Create a few empty game objects as children to locations and place them in front of the player. Drag the locations to the location slot on the enemy. Test and see that the enemy is moving. The enemy moves but stops at the last location. Let's fix it. Open the enemy script. Add these lines of code. Save the script. Now the enemy will start over from the first position. Now let's make the enemy shoot. Open up the enemy script again. Add these lines of code. Full code is available on patreon.com. Link in the description. Now let's create a barrel location for the enemy. Create an empty game object as a child to the enemy and place it where you want the lasers to exit. Drag the barrel location to the barrel slot in the enemy component. Create a laser for the enemy. I'm going to copy the first one and change it slightly. Drag the laser to the laser slot in the enemy. I just tested it and the enemy don't shoot now. It's because we never call the shoot method in the enemy script. Open up the enemy script again and add these lines of code. Save and go back to Unity. Now just add some shoot locations to the enemy component. These are the location game objects where the enemy will fire. Now test. It works. But the enemy is not aiming at us. Let's fix it. The barrel location is not in line with the enemy game object. Align them. Test again. Now the enemy shots are all to my top right. Let's adjust the barrel manually. Adjust the barrel location towards the direction needed. Test again and repeat until he is hitting you straight in the head. Let's add sounds to the enemy laser. Add an audio source to the enemy. Import the sound you want. My sounds are available in source. Drag the sound and the audio source to the slots in the enemy. Remember to drag the spatial blend to 3D. Now, we'll make it so that we can kill the enemy. Open the enemy script. Add these lines of code. Now we'll need to call the gotHit method when the ship is hit by one of our lasers. Select the ship inside the enemy game object. And add a sphere collider to it. Size it as you feel. This will be the hitbox of the ship. Add a script to the ship. Call it hit detector. Open the script and add these lines of code. We need to tag our laser with the tag laser for the method to trigger. Let's do it right now. Create the tag. Add the tag to the laser. Select the is trigger in the collider on the laser. Great. Now go back to the enemy script. And add these lines of code. Back in the hit detector script, add these lines of code. Now the enemy should disappear if we hit him twice. I lowered the enemy speed to 3 instead of 10 in the enemy 1 script component inside Unity. Awesome, it works. Now let's create an explosion when the enemy dies. Go to the Asset Store. Find, download, and import FX Explosion Pack. Open up the hit detection script and add these lines of code. Select the ship. Add component. Audio source. Drag it to its slot. Find a explosion sound. Import it to your sound folder. Drag the sound to the sound slot. In your Assets folder, go to the FX Explosion folder and choose one of the prefabs. Drag it to the explosion prefab slot. Now test and see if the enemy explodes. In Space Pirate Trainer, the player get points for every kill. Let's implement a simple point system. Select the center eye anchor. Add component. Name it player. Open the player script and add this code. Now we want to call that code in the player script whenever the enemy dies. Open up the hit detection script and add this code. Inside Unity we need a way to display the current score. Create new text mesh pro in your hierarchy. Import TMP Essentials. Resize and place in front of player. Name the new text to score. Drag it to the text slot in the player script we just created on the center eye anchor. Change the color of the score so that we can see it more easily. We need to make a small change to the script in hit detector. I'll explain why in the source code on patreon.com. Change these lines. Now test and see if the score is increasing. Nice. Now we also want the enemy to be able to hit us. To do this, add these lines of code to the player script. Copy the score text and rename the copy to HP. Ctrl+D to copy. Drag the HP to the lives text slot in the player script. Move the HP text a little bit so that it is above the score. We have placed one line in the wrong place. Go to the player script. Move this line to the update function. Select the center eye anchor. Create a sphere collider. Make it as big as you want your hitbox to be. Select is trigger. Now we need to give the enemy laser a tag. Select the enemy laser. Add tag. Name it enemy laser. Select the enemy laser again and apply the tag. Now test and see if you are losing lives when the enemy is hitting you. It works. Great work. One of the cool features in Space Pirate Trainer is the slow motion that happens when a laser is about to hit you. Let's implement it. Select the OVR camera rig. Add component. Name it slow motion zone. Add and create. Open the script and copy this code. As always, all the code is available in source code on patreon.com. Link in the description. Add a sphere collider to your OVR camera rig. Make it as big as you want your slow motion zone to be. Select is trigger on the collider. Find a slow motion sound you like on the internet and import it into your sound folder. I have already found a sound. Create an audio source on your OVR camera rig and drag it to the source slot. Then drag the slow motion sound to the slow motion sound slot. Test and see how it sounds. If you want the slow motion to be slower, adjust the slow motion speed. We need the shield to be able to stop the laser. Select both the shield by holding Ctrl and clicking. Check is trigger. Add component. Call it shield. Open the script. Copy this code. Find a fitting sound online. I have found a ricochet-like sound. Import it into your sound folder and drag it to the shield sound slot. Remember to select both the shields. Add component. Audio source. Drag it to the source slot. Now we are getting really close to the finish line. Let's do some styling. I do not put much effort into styling in this tutorial, but I will make it look a little bit nicer. Import Pro Builder. If you are on a version of Unity that starts with 2019, install it through the package manager as I'm doing. Else download it and install it through the asset store as usual. If you are watching this in the future, I suggest you Google how to install it. First, open the ProBuilder window by clicking Tools. ProBuilder. ProBuilder window. New shape. Cylinder. Reposition and resize. Build. Flip normals. Go to the inside of the cylinder. Choose the face selection. Delete all the faces in this direction. Subdivide the walls. Now remove the outermost wall. Go to the asset store. I have choose industrial looking textures called 10 texture sets industrial 02. Download and import. In your assets folder, select the textures and drag them to the walls and floor. Now let's get a skybox. Back to the asset store. Find Space Skies Free. Download and import. Now open the Lightning window. Go to Window. Rendering. Lightning Settings. Find one of the skyboxes you just downloaded and drag it to the skybox material slot. That's better. Now to send more waves of enemies and displaying the current wave, we need a little script. Create an empty game object. Call it waves. Create a script and call it waves as well. This script is a Patreon exclusive, so I do not share its implementation here. But this is a great learning experience for you. Look at this. Take time and figure out how to implement this script. Google and you can do it. I believe in you. Now create the Waves text display. Create Text Mesh Pro. Name it Waves Text. Resize and place. Drag it to the text slot in the Waves script. Let's style the text to make it look a little nicer. Time to add the electronic music. Find a song you like online and import it to your sounds folder. I have chosen a dubstep song. Create a new empty game object. Name it Music. Add audio source. Make sure Play on Awake is checked. Make sure Loop is checked. Then drag your music to the slot. Now the last step will be to make the player die once he has no more lives. I will make it simple and just restart the scene when this happens. Go to the player script and add these lines of code. If your game is glitchy, change the fixed time step to fit the Oculus Quest. Edit. Project settings. Fixed time step to 0.0138.